Hi, this is Pastor Johnny here. I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this message. I pray that God will speak to you through it, that you'll be both challenged and encouraged by what you hear. Thanks again. God bless.
Okay, what we're going to be doing every week, we're going to be sharing with you offerings and what was lifted in the offering on the week before. But on the first Sunday of every month, what we're also going to do is very briefly, just a bit more kind of teaching on money and on offerings. And so this being the first Sunday of February, this is going to be the first time that we're going to do this here. It's an amazing opportunity to be able to give to God. Amen. 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 Okay. I'm glad you think that there. Let me share something very briefly with you. This is Paul, and he's writing the second to the Corinthians. This is the second letter to the Corinthian people, and he says this. He says, "Now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability. Entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. And they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves first of all to the Lord, and then by the will of God also to us. So we urge Titus, just as he had earlier made a beginning, to bring also to completion this act of grace on your part. But since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, and knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in love, we have kindled in you to see that you also excel in this grace of giving." So Paul is saying to the Corinthians, he said, "Listen, the Macedonians have lifted this offering and it's actually exceeded our expectations." He says, "You guys are exceeding in grace and in love and in abundance of all of these things that you're doing as a church. It's absolutely amazing, but we're praying that you also, like the Macedonians, exceed and excel in your giving." We want to thank you guys for the part that you play in this church. And we've said this time and time again, that this is your church. This is your church. You are the church. We preach this time and time again as if you are the church. This is your church. This building is yours. This carpet, the walls, the doors, it's yours. This is your building. Okay? Treat it like your own. Don't mistreat it like your own. Treat it like your own. So if you bring in your cups of coffee, take them with you. That was just a wee moment for you, okay? So Paul said to the Corinthians, "Listen, thank you for everything that you are, for everything that you do, but we want you to excel in giving. We want to thank you for your giving. From the bottom of our hearts, this is your church, and this church would not survive if it wasn't for your giving. However, we want to excel in our giving, because as we excel in our giving, we will excel in what we can do as a church. Our vision is to be a God influence in our city and beyond. And that will only happen, and will happen best through money, through us giving financially. The more money that we bring into this church, then the more that we will be able to do. Now, for those of the haters out there who will be hearing this and hopefully sending him emails rather than me, let me explain something very quickly. Money is the answer to everything. Amen? Money is the answer to everything. Now, if you don't believe me, then take it up with God, because it's in His Word in Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Money is the answer to everything. The more influence that you want to have, the more influence that we want to have will come through, believe it or not, two resources. Resource number one is you. Resource number two is money. I'm kind of thinking ahead, because there's things that we want to do and things that we want to develop in this place and through a church. And one of the things that's on my mind at the minute, and has been for probably about 6 months, is the fact that Ulster University are moving from down in Jordanstown to within a stone's throw of this building. We're talking thousands and thousands of students. And they're already preparing, because there are builders that are developing buildings that are going to be housing them within a stone's throw of this building. I want those students in this church. Rather than being out partying on a Friday and a Saturday night, why not have them in here doing church on a Friday and Saturday night? So what I want to do is in the next couple of years is to have 2 or 3 people on staff who are able to go into that college and able to preach the students in there and bring them in here. Happens through money. Our 2 greatest resources is you and money. And Ecclesiastes tells us that money is the answer to everything. Let me just finish with this here. I want you to do me one favour, okay? If this building, if this church, if City Life Centre has had a major impact, now what do I mean by a major impact? This could be a life or death situation, but what I'm talking about is a change. It has brought about a significant change in your life. Will you do me a favour? Will you stand to your feet? Don't stand to make me look good. If it's had a significant, not just that, well, it's been good. I'm talking about significant. And for a lot of people, life-changing, and for some people, life or death. I want you to look around because this is where the money goes to. The money goes into people's lives. Money will transform people's lives. And I know what's going to happen. I know the letters of hate that's going to come whenever people hear what I'm talking about here. And that's okay. I can deal with it. I've got big enough shoulders. Don't worry about it. But if it wasn't for the money that's coming into this place, and this place didn't exist, where would you be today? That's what money does in this place. And it's not that money has us, as if whenever we have the money, we can do so much more with it. Churches lifted offerings for Paul for his ministry. The Macedonians talked about, we want to share with you, Paul. We want to do our part. And so what they did was they lifted up an offering and they gave it to Paul. And Paul was able to go and minister. If we want the ministry in this church not only to continue but to excel, then we must excel in our giving. You can take your seats. Let me share just one story. I haven't asked his permission, so I'm not going to mention his name. And I don't know if he's here this morning or not. I haven't seen him. There was one guy just about, I don't know, 2 months ago, comes into this building. He is on the verge of suicide. And he knows he can come into this place. He knows that if he comes to this place, he's going to get help. He's going to get help. About a day later, or was it later on that day? Later on that day, he leaves this place and he goes home. And while he's in the house, he's still being overcome with darkness. And he's at the top of the stairs, about to commit suicide. My dad knocks on his door. Says, when you were down there, we just wanted to follow up with you. How's things going? He was at the top of the stairs about to take his own life. That's the effect and the influence that this place has on individuals. And you have played your part as you give into this church. Then that's what you're given to. You're given into seeing people's lives transformed and changed for the glory of God. I think that's something worth being thankful for.
Thank you for listening to the New Life Weekly podcast. For more resources, follow us on our Twitter feed at NLCC Media or subscribe by sending an email to blog@nlcc.media.